in Azerbaijan, one of the 15 republics of Soviet Union. It's a small country, but this country already held two major events. And one of them was last week. We held first European Olympic Games. So I'd like to use this opportunity, Mr. Toastmasters, my fellow members and guests, to talk about my wonderful country. Azerbaijan joined Soviet Union in 1920s. As many of you probably know, Soviet Union collapsed in 1990s. Azerbaijan became independent in October 1991. If you ask anyone in Azerbaijan whether this country is in Europe or Asia, you could get two different answers, because there's no right or wrong answer. This country is on the edge of Europe and Asia, in between of Eastern Europe and Western Asia. On and off, it borders with Russia. On the west, with Armenia and Georgia. Not US Georgia, but Georgian Caucasians. And in the south, it bordered with Iran and Turkey. Azerbaijan is known as the land of fire, because my country is known for oil and gas. And sometimes oil and gas come together and you can see the flame coming out of the ground. Azerbaijan has 65 areas and 68 cities. And one of them is the capital, Baku. Saida and I are Azeris, Azerbaijanis, and we speak two languages. One of them is Azerbaijani or Azeri, and the second one, actually I consider it my native, is Russian. I went to a Russian school. So Baku is very beautiful. And what makes Baku, the capital, wonderful is three things: history, people, and food. So I'm going to tell you today about these three things. History. So I passed around a few visual slides. So I apologize for people who didn't get it, but I strategically gave them first to the last rows, and I'm going to be over here for people who didn't get it. I go to Baku once a year, and this is my favorite monument in Baku. You could see that there's a lot of Eastern influence in here. So the name of this monument is the Maidan Tower, and it was built in the 20th century. This tower, actually, when it was built, it was in the sea. There was a sea over here. But when the sea went back, so now you could see that it stands on the ground. But just across from the street, from this building, where is the sea. It has a beautiful but tragic story. We say that at that point of time, the king fell in love with his daughter and asked her to marry him. She was so disgusted with that idea that she asked him to build a tower for her so that she would have time to think. So he built this tower. When the tower was built, she just threw herself in the sea and she died. Tragic legend. But every time I go home, with no elevators here, it's actually, this building's very tall. So I go all the way over the spiral staircase up to the top, and you could see the entire city, you could see the sea. So it's actually more exciting than being in an Empire State Building. If you ever have an opportunity to go there. And there's also the museum over there. Now my second favorite place is the Old Town, or as we call it in Azeri, Ichari Sahar. If you look at this picture, you could see that it looks a little bit like the Eastern city, which it is. There's a lot of Eastern influence in Azerbaijan. So the inner city was built in the 9th century. And this palace, the Shirvanshah Palace, together with the Maidan Tower, were actually on the UNESCO World Heritage List. This is a pretty famous thing. But one thing which I like about it is when you go to Baku, and Baku is very modern, the capital, It's very noisy. So when you go inside this inner house, it's kind of like very relaxing. There's a lot of nice restaurants. We also know for carpets. So if you ever have an opportunity to go, definitely go with us. So this is my favorite historical places. Now the second thing I want to talk about is food. I know there's a lot of restaurants here in New York, but if you've never been to Baku, you haven't eaten the most delicious food. And I could be biased, but it's true. Everyone who ever goes there, they say it's the most delicious and unique place. The food is influenced by Eastern and Western culture because we were part of the former Soviet Union. We obviously have a lot of Russian dishes. But I'm going to show you a few things that, and I'll tell you why this is wonderful. One of the most famous dishes is actually plov, which is made from rice. And I guarantee you have never ever seen anything like this before. It's not done like getting Uncle Betty, putting it into microwave. Everything in Baku is prepared from scratch. And as a woman, you're being taught to do food from scratch. Because if you don't know how to cook in Baku, and Saida could attest to that, that means you're not a real woman. The next thing that I'd like to show you is, again, my favorite food is this, which unfortunately I can't allow myself anymore because otherwise I wouldn't have looked like this. So it has a lot of sugar in it and a lot of nuts, and it's called shakambara. It's the tastiest food that you could ever imagine. We're also famous for caviar because the Caspian Sea produces a lot of fish. So our caviar is famous around the world. And the last thing I want to talk about is the most famous people who were born in Baku. Obviously, the first one is me. The next one is Stislav Rostropovich, which is the most famous cellist in the world. He was a conductor of the U.S. National Orchestra in D.C. The second was Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion. And the third one is Lev Landau, who is a famous physician. He won the Nobel Prize. So again, it's a small country, but I'm very proud to be a citizen of it. I still have a citizen that come and visit. Thank you.